Today's lesson is on powers and exponents. In review, exponential expressions have two main parts. The base number tells which number is to be multiplied. The exponent tells how many times the base will be multiplied. The exponent is above the base. It's the small number and it's raised to a higher level. An exponent may also be referred to as a power. We can say 5 to the second power. 5 to the second power is 5 times 5. The base 5 is multiplied 2 times and you get an answer of 25. 5 squared does not equal 5 times 2. 5 squared equals 5 times 5. Here is 2 to the fourth power, which means we're going to multiply the 2 4 times. We get 4 times 4, or 16. 3 to the fifth power, we're going to multiply the 3 5 times. 9 times 9 times 3, 81 times 3, 243. Negative signs and base numbers can be represented in 4 different ways. We're going to look at each of these examples so that you can see how these are carefully solved. In this example, the negative base is inside the parentheses. Because the negative sign is inside the parentheses, we square the negative as well as the number. So we have negative 5 times negative 5. This will always equal a positive answer. So when the negative is in the parentheses, it is also raised to the outside power. In this example, the negative sign is not in parentheses. We can think of this as negative 1 times 5 times 5. The negative sign is not in parentheses and only the 5 is squared. In this example, the negative sign is outside parentheses, so only the 5 is squared. And in this example as well, the negative sign is outside the parentheses, so only the 5 is squared. So if there are no parentheses, or if the negative sign is outside the parentheses, and you have an even-numbered exponent, the answer will be negative. It will also be negative if you have an odd-numbered exponent. In all cases where you have a negative sign outside parentheses, your answer will be negative. Let's look at situations where the bases are negative because they are inside the parentheses. In these 3 examples here, notice that the exponent is an even number. When you have an even-numbered exponent, you will always have a positive answer, because when you multiply together 2 negatives, they become positive. Since it's an even number exponent, you will always have a positive answer. However, if you have an odd-numbered exponent, you will always have one negative number left over at the end of your multiplication, which will make your answer negative. So if you have an odd-numbered exponent, you will always have a negative answer if there is the negative inside the parentheses. Negative 3x squared, if we simplify this expression, you're going to see that we're going to square the negative 3 and square the x's. So we have a positive 9x squared. This is also an expression that can be simplified, but you notice that the negative sign is outside, so the answer will be negative. We square the 3 and square the x's to get negative 9x squared. In this example, we're going to substitute a value for x. So the first step is always to write the equation with the substitution. Now we solve the parentheses first and then the exponent, and we get negative 36. The negative sign is outside the parentheses, so it's negative 36. In this example, solve the parentheses first. So we get negative 3 times 3 squared. Then do the exponents. Negative 3 times 9. And we have an answer of negative 27. Here we're going to substitute before we solve. So we'll put the 4 in where we see an x, and we'll put the negative 2 in where we see a y. Now we can begin solving. Solve for the exponents, and we get negative 12 plus 16 times negative 2, which is negative 12 minus 32, or a negative 44. Here's another example with substitutions. The most important step here is to be sure you substitute before you try to solve. So we see we're going to solve the parentheses first, negative 5 times 5, then the exponents, minus 9. And now we have negative 25 minus 9, or negative 34. In summary, an exponential term has two main parts, a base and an exponent. The base is multiplied together the number of times that's indicated by the exponent. Pay close attention to parentheses on exponential terms. If the negative sign is outside the parentheses, the answer will be negative. If the negative sign is inside the parentheses and the exponent is even, the answer will be positive. If the negative sign is inside the parentheses and the exponent is odd, the answer will be negative. Always use order of operations to solve exponential expressions. And that is the end of our lesson.